The Book of Judges records the history of an outcast who rose to rule, a man named Jephthah. He was the son of a concubine, and according to the 19th century scholar known as the Malbim, the law was strictly on his side. A concubine's son inherits equally with his brothers. But his brothers ignored the law and drove him out of his father's house anyway. And the elders of Gilead, the very men charged with enforcing justice, watched it happen and did nothing. Knowing that worse persecution was waiting if he stayed, Jephthah fled to the land of Tob, a harsh, rocky frontier, where a camp of hard men gathered around him. By ignoring a legally protected right of inheritance, the leadership of Gilead created a profound vacuum of justice. They replaced the rule of law with forced exile. Years passed. That vacuum held until the nation of Ammon sent an army of foot soldiers across the border, creating a sudden, existential threat to Gilead. Desperate, the elders climbed up into the rough hills of Tob to retrieve the man they had wronged. The Malbim is blunt about their arrival. They didn't come to right a past injustice. They came strictly because they were afraid. They asked him to return and be their Katzin, a military chief among equals. Jephthah rejected the offer immediately. He asked them why they had come to him only now, in distress, after hating him and casting him from his father's house. So the elders escalated their offer. They promised to make him their Rosh, absolute head over all Gilead. By officially placing him over them, they legally righted the initial injustice before a single sword was even drawn. Spoken agreements, forged entirely in panic, took a man cast out from his own family and irrevocably bound him to the absolute highest authority in the land. Now the head of Gilead, Jephthah sent messengers to the distant Ammonite camp. As the Malbim notes, an ancient war between kings required a formally stated cause, and Jephthah demanded to know theirs. The king of Ammon laid out his legal justification for war. He accused Israel of stealing Ammonite land centuries earlier during their migration from Egypt. Jephthah countered with historical memory. Israel had bypassed Ammon entirely. The land in question was taken strictly in a defensive war against Sihon the Amorite, matching the exact borders ordained by God. Then he delivered the legal argument of time. Israel had lived undisturbed in those towns for 300 years. A claim that had slept for 3 centuries, the Malbim explains, has legally died in its sleep. The king of Ammon refused to listen. The absolute failure of these diplomatic messages officially closed off any path to peace, locking both nations into inevitable combat. Then a divine mandate fell upon Jephthah, and he moved rapidly past Mizpah to strike 20 Ammonite cities. But on the road to that battle, Jephthah spoke a solemn vow to God regarding his safe return. He declared, "It shall be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace, it shall be to the Lord, and I shall offer it up as an offering." The entire weight of this vow rests on a single Hebrew letter, the Vav. The Malbim, drawing on earlier scholars, translates this letter as or, splitting Jephthah's sentence into 2 separate legal clauses. The rule was clear. Whatever came out of the house that was fit for an altar would be sacrificed, but whatever was not fit would be set apart, dedicated completely to the service of God. Before he had won a single battle, Jephthah's meticulously worded vow legally prepared a binding space for whoever opened his door. Jephthah returned victorious to Mizpah, and the one who came out of the doors to meet him, holding a wooden hoop drum, was his only daughter. Jephthah tore his clothes in immediate despair. He realized the words he had spoken to God had perfectly trapped him. Yet, as the Malbim notes, a vow to God can be legally released. Jephthah could have gone to the sages, expressed regret for making the vow, and found a way out. It was his daughter who offered a fatal, mistaken counterargument. She reasoned that because God had already granted the military victory, her father could not retroactively claim regret to escape the price. Jephthah accepted her reasoning. Their rigid adherence to spoken words, even legally flawed ones, officially closed the final escape route for both father and daughter. She asked her father for 2 months to go down upon the mountains and mourn with her companions. The text is precise about her grief. She wept strictly for the marriage and the family she would never have. When she returned, the scripture records the fulfillment of the vow in 5 stark words, "And she knew no man." This was the reality of the vow's second clause. She was not sacrificed. Instead, she lived the rest of her life alive but unwed, set apart in solitary dedication to God. The outcast who rose to rule a nation ended up imprisoned by his own words. The land was finally quiet, but his lineage was at a definitive end.